went to jail.
Yep. Got my computer to do videos. Huh. Hey.
Hi.
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Pretty good.
Hey,
Hey, Todd.
how are you?
Making it. Can't complain. Hey, Chief.
How's it going? I'm Vladimir. Todd Fuller, yeah. Y'all got more coming?
No, the other one couldn't make it. One had to work, another one had a headache. It was migraine, big time, you know. So let me get this thing plugged in real quick, if I can. So, first thing I want to start off with is, Chief, the day I came up to you and talked to you about Pettit, I told you, I said, I don't understand why he had an attitude. I've never had interactions with him before. And then you replied to me, well, maybe it's because your name's Chris Moses. And then the conversation went on to he was ordered to go ahead and make sure that the road was clear for fire apparatuses, right? So, in y'all's code of ethics, it flat out says, I will never act officially or permit personal feelings, prejudice, animosities, or friendships to influence my decisions. So when you reply to me that maybe just because my name's Chris Moses, that tells me there's prejudice, there's animosities toward me by those officers. And then it also says in here, I will act appropriately without fear or favor, malice, or ill will. So it's obviously ill will by some of these officers. You and I both know that. So to me, they're violating their code of ethics when they act that way, right? They're going off a couple of things, and these guys know about it. I've talked to you about it, talked to him about it, with the Eston Masters and stuff, correct? About how that went down, and that previous chief, not you, didn't have to do a damn thing about it for years. Went on for 5 years. Our family was running in fear for that, right? He lives across the street from me. He lives on the next street. He knows that Eston Masters guy. His wife went to school with Eston. Paul Kern, who owns the house next door to me, where the guy shot at my son, he did a video last night because of all this. And I want to get to that in a minute. But it just tells me that there are some animosities going on because of some of that embarrassed the department because they had to go to the sheriff's department, and the sheriff's department actually did their job properly when Red Oak didn't do their job for 5 years. And we lived in fear over there. He even got some harassment, but nothing like I got. Nothing like I got. Huh? Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, rumors of what's going around between these officers. And I know that for a fact because I have video of Officer Nelson flat out telling me when I confronted him about his actions with the guy that shot at my son, he flat out said, well, you got to understand, I'm just going off secondhand information, which means another officer told him all this stuff, and he was going off of that and making an assumption based on what he said, another officer said to him, or officers, correct? So that all aggravates the heck out of me that this is still going on, right?
So can I speak to the departmental meeting? Mm-hmm. So immediately after I spoke with you, there was a disciplinary action that was handed down for Officer Pettit.
Yeah.
I also called an emergency departmental meeting and brought everybody in to discuss exactly what you're talking about, our code of ethics, our oath of commitment, our oath of honor, and then all the supervisory oaths that they have to take if
Yeah.
they work for me, plus my chief's expectations.
Yeah.
I printed out copies to everybody where every one of my employees who comes to work for me has to sign that,
Yeah.
and told them where they had failed.
Hmm.
And that outside, or because of some of the actions and comments that have been made in the past, it has negatively influenced some of those officers, and as of that day, it stops.
Okay.
So that,
Hopefully,
well,
I mean,
I do too.
you know,
So there was disciplinary action handed down to Officer Pettit because of his actions.
it-
He is in 2 different training classes. One is a procedural justice class, which he's in today, and he has to take another de-escalation class within a couple of weeks, plus
Yeah.
the disciplinary that was handed down to him and is in his personnel file.
yeah.
And then we called the departmental meeting. I put everybody on notice. Quite frankly, it was kind of a fire and brimstone conversation that took place, and that I'm done. I'm tired of dealing with this particular issue.
Hmm.
And if we're gonna be true to that, then you guys are gonna have to do the things that that says. And they were all put on notice.
All I ask is they treat me with respect.
I understand.
That's all I ask,
I understand.
you know? And then, you know, I came to you about the attitude. But when I saw the video and I saw that he went back and lied to the sergeant, and the sergeant exaggerated when he talked to either the assistant chief or lieutenant, don't know which one it was because it wasn't you, and then they exaggerated the situation even more, that aggravated me. Because I'm like, we were not blocking that road. There, in the video, there's clearly a red truck going between my truck and his son's truck.
Well, I'm not gonna get down in the weeds.
Yeah.
I think that's a semantics conversation. And in my opinion, viewing the stills in the video at different portions for different intervals of time, the roadway was blocked. Not for hours on end, but
Yeah.
at different periods of time, the roadway was blocked. You occupied a lane of traffic.
Yeah,
and
which isn't against the law.
It's illegal to stop.
Well, I talked to 2 state troopers. They were both corporals. They told me that it was
But if there's no shoulder to get on,
It-
you're able to stop.
it is transportation,
I don't care
transportation,
what they said.
transportation code 545.303 says in there, I don't know word for word, I'm gonna tell you what they told me, was you're allowed to stop, stay, or park on a roadway as long as you're within 18 inches of the edge of the road or the curb, unless there's a sign there. There was no sign there. That's number one. Number two, those houses between his street, my street, and then past my street have had many parties, and people have been parked exactly like I was parked that day, exactly like his son was parked that day. There's never been an issue before. But because I was there, and I want to tell you this, him and his wife were to the left of Officer Pettit that day. They were the closest people for him to go talk to. If you go back and look at his body cam video and his dash cam video, he directly came at me,
I've watched it numerous times.
and he came right at me. He didn't say anything to them. He yelled at me and walked right toward me. His eyes and focus were on me, Mr. Moses. And I'm just sick of it. I'm tired of it. And that's why I put some of this stuff out on YouTube. Because I'm just tired of it. There's actually more stuff I got right now. They may go out on YouTube. Because I'm just sick of this stuff. You know, these officers need to start learning how to respect this. It may not just be me. It may be other citizens. I have no idea. I just know what's done to me. And
Well,
it's not fair to me.
What I can speak to is the fact that there was disciplinary action handed down.
Yeah.
He was disciplined. Normally, I don't do this, but he was disciplined in front of the whole department at that meeting. I had that entire meeting with the entire department. It was a mandatory meeting. Everybody was there. Those conversations were had. We spoke specifically to the code of ethics, their oath of commitments, the chief's expectations that I put out that every officer has to sign.
Mm.
And they were told that that attitude is no longer going to be tolerated in any shape, fashion, or form. And that everybody's going to get the fair shake that they deserve.
And I think I've told you before, I don't anticipate these officers getting fired or anything, but they should understand that they should respect the citizens with respect. And, you know, if they're a criminal, that's one thing. I get that.
I mean, what's going on? We all know, I mean, around the country now, what's going on. We don't care much about politics, about what's going on, you know, but me as a resident of Red Oak House for more than 24 years, I even been living in Red Oak before he even moved, bought his house, you know. Every time I had a interaction with the Red Oak PD. It wasn't good. I can name it one more time. I was at Walmart parking lot. You know the door, the front door, where the stripe on the ground and all that, where people walk across? I've seen a lot of people parking there. Stop. I stopped at the yellow side, passed the doors, let my son out years ago to go to the Red Box DVD rental thing, you know, to put it back on. And all of a sudden, I almost had a heart attack. A Red Oak PD officer banging on my driver's side window. Like, I even jumped. I went like, what the, what? I rolled out the window. What are you doing here? Move your car. Get out of here. That's not the kind of interaction, I wasn't, yeah.
I would agree.
And I was like, oh, officer, my son went inside. How old is your son? You know it's illegal? My son was already 9 years old. And I was watching through the window. He go inside. The Red Box was right there by the front door. And that's one of them. Another one was right after 4th of July. I was at 1 o'clock inside my garage. The lights out, in the dark. Whoever parked in front of my mailbox didn't see me. But there was this old car, put something inside my mailbox, and speed up. Haul ass, started spinning the tires and took off. I was drinking beer, of course. 4th of July, I was in my garage, inside the garage. And I call Red Oak PD. He came, he started taking down, what is your driver's license and all this stuff. And before, I had a chance to tell, and it was a bomb. He put like a fireworks bomb inside me. He burned all the letters. He riddled my mailbox. That's why I called. I was trying to give the descriptions of the vehicle. I couldn't see the person, but the vehicle. And the officer treated me like I was the one who was in trouble. Have you been drinking? He said, you cannot be drinking publicly, seriously? Just because I was on the street right there in front of my house, in front of my mailbox, and all of a sudden he goes like, check my driver's license, my old driver's license, because it got canceled while I was in the process of becoming a legal citizen here in the U.S. because I was just a resident. So anyway, I had to let my license expire in order to get a new one, because my social security card was printed wrong in my name. It's a long story. But anyway, my old driver's was the one I had. Every time it got run, it said it got confused with somebody else in Dallas, in the county of Dallas. And the officer said, you know what, I could have taken you to jail right now because there's a warrant of arrest in the Dallas. I had to run for like 3 years with my my record. I had to go to Dallas, print a record, minus a criminal record, copies, inside the car all the time with me because I was scared, I was afraid. And I was like, seriously? I called to complain about some jerk blowing up my mailbox, and I was the one, I was going to jail for that, I can name several, interactions that I had and experiences with that Red Oak PD, and it wasn't fun. And to be honest, when I moved over here, I used to contribute with officers, Dallas, and also Ellis County. What is it called?
It's like the association, yeah.
Association stuff. After that, I said, you know what? Screw it. Forget about it. It started angering me. The way I was being treated. Every time I had an interaction. Like if I was a criminal, I go like, seriously? And he said, and I know Chris for all these years, 24 years. He always took care of the neighborhood. He always, get us together to sign for anything, petition to get the streets done.
You know that.
He was always watching the houses, like, anybody that was getting too trashy, and stuff like that. It's like, watch the
crime watch,
crime watch
stuff
yeah,
too, yeah.
Around the streets and everything like that. It got to a point that I'm scared. I'm not scared of criminals, to be honest with you. Because I got my Second Amendment right, and I do have guns in the house. I don't walk away out with a gun. But if I had any problem, it made me not want ever call the cops before I